Hey guys, welcome to my video. This one's going to be a review of a Broadway Limited 282 Mikado engine. This one is lettered for the Pennsylvania Railroad, and the Pennsy classified their 282s as the L1s class. And so that's what this engine is. It's got Paragon 3 sound, so we're going to look at how the engine sounds, check out how it operates, check out the pulling power of the engine, talk about the details of the engine and where there's a couple discrepancies, although the engine is very detailed and very accurate. There are a couple things I want to point out to you, and we'll look at how it operates. So it's a great little engine, but let's get to the unboxing so you can see for yourself. The unboxing was very straightforward. It comes in the BLI's new Paragon 3 box. It's got their standard literature, a short little guide in it. It talks about the Paragon 3 Rolling Thunder sound system and all of the different sounds you can generate with the function codes. BLI has changed their packaging a little bit on their steam engines recently. I actually like this packaging a lot better than what they used to use. It seems to protect the steam engines better, but also it's much easier to get them out of the packaging without damaging them. So I like this quite a bit. The box also comes with a couple classification lights, a small little wrench and some traction tires, and then a small funnel so you can add the smoke fluid to the engine. The engine is equipped with puffing smoke, but it does not come with any smoke fluid in the box. Right out of the box, the engine did have one minor issue I had to fix. On the tender, one of the wheel sets was not properly seated, so it actually was loose in there. So I went ahead and put it back on. It was pretty easy. One thing you do have to watch, though, is these wheels are insulated on one side, and so you have to make sure you put the insulated wheel on the side with the other insulated wheels. So you can see the differences on how they look there. Popped back into place, no issues, and then I went on to test out the engine. All right, so let's get on to looking at how this engine performs. Straight out of the box, the engine is very smooth. At speed step 1, which is what it's moving at here, there was a little bit of hesitation, very minor jerkiness to it, just so it wasn't completely smooth. But as you can see, it still looks very smooth and very nice. It's just there's a little bit of shuddering there. But with that, at speed step 1, it crawls forward at 0.7 miles an hour. By increasing that only to speed step 5, the engine ran perfectly smooth with no little shuddering or vibration at all. And even then, it was still crawling forward at 2.1 miles an hour. And if you want your 282s to go flying around the layout, this one will accommodate you with a top speed of 84 scale miles an hour. I found that the engine tracked out very well through all parts of my layout. Here, sort of one of my standard tests, backing through several InsulFrog switches. And no issues, no interruption of the sound, and the lights were nice and steady all the way through here. And here's the engine, once again going through the same set of turnouts, this time going forwards. Again, no issues at all. Now here's the engine backing through my double crossover and the ladder tracks of my yard, and a little bit of a bump going through the double crossover, but no interruption of sound, and it still was nice and smooth through there. So really no issues or problems whatsoever. And if you guys aren't familiar with my layout, all of my switches and turnouts are all insulated frog turnouts, and the engine performed perfectly fine through all of them. And so here it is coming back out of the yard through all the ladder tracks, all perfectly fine, and give you another close-up of it going through the double crossover. Again, no issues. Most Broadway limited steam engines are excellent pullers, and this 282 is no exception at all. I actually was able to pull 100 cars on my layout with this steam engine. Now, that is level track, but it was going through about 720 degrees of curve as it was pulling the train. But no issues at all. It moved right along, and it's quite remarkable that a engine the size of a 282 can pull that many cars. It's really good. Okay, now that we have seen how this engine performs, how about we go ahead and listen to its Paragon 3 sound system as we check out the details on the engine. On the underside of the engine, there's also a mechanical on-off switch for the smoke unit, or you can also turn it off with F7. And then also make sure you never leave your smoke unit on if you don't have smoke fluid in it. Okay, there are a few little details I wanted to point out to you here. The first one is the color of red that's on the tender versus the color of red that is on the top of the cab. BLI got that right. There actually were two different colors of red that were on the Pennsy steam engines. And so that was correct, and that's really good. The tender on the post-1946 version of the engine does have a doghouse on it, and the doghouse is finely modeled and detailed and accurate. One piece, though, is the ones without the doghouse, the pre-46 versions, had a ladder that went from the sort of the top of the tender, or the cistern, up to the back of the slope sheet. And when they added the doghouse to it, they ended up removing that ladder, and it really should have both. You should have a ladder and a doghouse in the post-46 version. The cab does feature a sliding roof vent, so you can model this engine either with it closed or open. However, when you have it open, you can see a little bit of a circuit board and a couple wires down in there. One thing on the engine that's pretty noticeable is this spring that is attached to the trailing truck. This is in between the drive wheels and the trailing truck. This spring in some other models is obscured because of some of the under firebox details. And although there should be some additional details here so you wouldn't be able to see that spring, in this model BLI has chosen not to add those details in, and so it leaves a big open area, and then in that open area the only thing there is this big spring, which really shouldn't be there on the prototype. For the most part, you can't see any mold lines anywhere on this engine except on the pilot air tank. It actually is pretty pronounced, and you can see it right there, and that mold line shouldn't be there at all. However, even with these couple issues, I still find this to be a really nice locomotive. It's highly detailed and very high quality, and it just runs super smooth and looks really good. On the Pennsylvania Railroad, the 282s were primarily a freight hauler and served the Pennsy from 1914 all the way to the end of steam. Ultimately, the Pennsylvania Railroad purchased 574 of the 282s, and they all were actually pretty common to one another, and they only made up one class within the railroad, and that is the L1s class. All in all, I think BLI's model here does a great job replicating Pennsylvania's 282s as they appeared post-World War II. And while I didn't detail its operations here, as I mentioned in the beginning, this engine is equipped with BLI's Paragon 3 sound system, so if you have the Rolling Thunder receiver and subwoofer, then it will transmit those low-frequency sounds to that instead of all of the sounds coming out of the small onboard speaker. Okay, I guess that will about do it for this review. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and found it useful. So until next time, keep running your trains and keep enjoying them, and we'll catch you at the next update.